I was scrolling through something the other day and somebody talked about how they were putting their medical records into chat.
You Google your test results and then WebMD tells you you're dying.
What else was in your damn chart? It's totally fine.
Isn't.
Yeah, let's we can ask about weapons.
And serial killers.
Let's give me your driver's license and get your educator account. So like now we can like dox you at your workplace whenever you violate the policy.
Like, I'm just stuck on people actually uploading.
I am Dr. Brandi Robinson, the owner and founder of Learner Journey Labs.
And I'm Sarah Fuselier, Chief Chaos Coordinator here at Learner Journey Labs.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Learning Out Loud. So there have been some interesting developments over the past couple of weeks that have really highlighted the fact that just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're almost back in the days where it was AOL like chat rooms and it was like stranger danger, and like that's always been still present, but people forget about it, and now it's like AI's turn to have that stranger danger.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So just for context, everyone, this week Claude launched the educator accounts, which everyone was like, woo, I don't like Claude. So I wasn't like, woo. But everyone else was like, woo, we love Claude. They're awesome. Free educator accounts. And I was like, until they charge you for tokens, like that's going to happen.
Right.
They're going to be like, oops, you used too many tokens. Now you have to pay to use us. But as I was kind of scrolling through my feed and I was talking to some of my doctoral students, it is asking you to upload your identification into Claude in order to get the free account.
So like your teacher ID?
Not just your teacher ID. It was asking for a driver's license.
No, thank you.
And even your teacher ID, that's still your full name and where you work, which
I can get because like for Apple's educator, like you have to put your name and your email address or...
So you do, but Apple is secure.
Right.
Like,
but
Apple
anything outside of that...
Apple's like, you're not getting our data.
Right. But I still get nervous about that, especially now they're using like a third party.
Yeah.
So that always makes me nervous. But again, I was like, okay, it's my first name, my last name, and an email address. Like at the end of the day, it's not...
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is your current place of employment. So sometimes that can be a password recovery. Sometimes like I'm just thinking of like the cybersecurity stuff we go through with all those trainings. It's like, be careful because if they do enough social engineering, they can basically put together like your social media where you've checked in recently or where you have tagged as home. So it just feels like not a great idea. And I think in particular with Claude, just again to pick on them, is they had a massive breach a few months ago where they got all their proprietary code taken.
Right.
So
that's
the one you want to upload your stuff to, like,
right. And it just makes me feel icky.
And I think it's good. Like, I think you're really aware. I think like my larger concern as educators as a whole, we haven't really done professional development, at least talking to my doctoral students who are educational leaders. Like they've said most of their teachers won't think anything of that. Like they'll just upload it.
That's no.
And I feel like your parents also made you super suspicious because like you've said, like my parents were like, don't even do FAFSA and stuff because like that's data. So I think like you're super aware of it. And then I'm just naturally suspicious. I've built way too many cybersecurity programs. So like I'm suspicious of any and everything. Like I had a background check and they wanted something. And I was like, I'm going to need a secure link that's got encryption. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, I mean, I'm not sending this document over the internet in email where anyone can get it, sir.
Exactly. Yeah. No, my parents were very, very private and very, very suspicious. And I remember my high school wanted my social security number to be like my student ID or whatever. And they weren't going to, I think I was going into my senior year. I don't even remember. But they flagged it, like this woman brought out this giant highlighter and was like, you didn't fill this out. And I was like, you don't need that information, because in the late 90s, it wasn't required. And they were like, no, we need this to register you. And I was like, no, ma'am, you don't. And she's like, yes, we do. And I was like, no, ma'am, you don't. You haven't had to have it any other year. And I was like, and legally, the only people I have to give it to are my place of employment and the federal government. You are neither.
Yeah.
And I, again, not a super confrontational person.
No, you're not. But like, this is one of the areas that, like, in our friendship, it's like a hard limit for you.
Right. Well, and especially like, this was to somebody, I mean, she was a secretary, so not like the principal, but still, she was an adult, part of the admin team at my high school. And I was like, no, you don't. And then she was like, we have to have it. And it was funny. Somebody came out and they saw me and they saw what we were arguing with. And it was, my parents were very involved in my school as well. Volunteering, raising money, all the kinds of things. And they saw what she had highlighted and who it was. And they were like, she's fine. And they're like, actually, she's 100% correct. And if she doesn't want to provide it, we cannot force her to.
Yeah.
And even, once we got married, at some point when we were first married, you didn't even have to give your insurance company your social security number. Yeah. And I literally waited until they threatened to cancel our insurance through my husband's company before I would give them my social security. And he was like, it's not that serious. And I'm like, but it is.
Yeah.
I've spent over 25 years of my life being told, closer to 30 at this point, that you have to have it. And like, now I had to give it to B school, and like, it stresses me out every day.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would give it to my kids' school.
We had to.
I would be like, I want a detailed explanation of why you need this.
Oh, it provides it. And I can't remember why, because I also kind of call it
Title I funding.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think I also call shenanigans on it. But I read it one time because I was like, no. And they were like, yes. And I was like, but no. And they were like, but yes.
Yeah, I would be a problem in that instance. Because I feel like the only reason someone wants your social security number is for taxes.
Right.
And like with Obamacare, now your insurance carrier needs it because it's tied to your taxes. Right. So like that makes sense to me. But like my kids' school, I'd be like, why do you need my tax information?
Yeah. The only thing I can think of too is like U.S. status kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. With that. I know that a couple of times I had to put my social in like testing packets. And my parents threw down over that because they were like, we're not telling our like child. It was like in middle school, I want to say, when I was taking Gixxed testing. And they wanted to put my social security on the packet. And my parents were like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And my parents fought when I went to college. I was one of the few people that did not have their social security. Like, it was never on my license. It was never for the school. And I graduated college before it became like, that is your student ID number. And I was always like, y'all are crazy. Like, here's your social just as your student ID number. Like,
flashing around for everybody to see.
Your professors see it. Like, TAs can see it. Like, so many people can access this. And this was before identity theft was huge. Like, we're talking early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I thought all kinds of people were crazy for that. So and again, I'm super careful even with what I tried to do the online sports betting at one point, and I gave up because we'd moved, and so what I'd put as my address didn't match my license at that moment because we still owned the old house, and I was putting off the DMV until the very last second, and it didn't want to do that. And then it was like, we need one of your bills or your mortgage statement or something, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to online bet that much.
Yeah,
like. And so for months, they kept sending me things that, like, I needed to, like, finish my account. And I was like, I think it was DraftKings. And I was like, no, DraftKings, y'all are dumb. Because it was just, like, the documentation that they wanted.
Yeah.
And I didn't even want to give them necessarily my license at that point. But I think I wanted to bet on the Super Bowl. And I was like, well, okay, we'll see. And then I'll just close the account.
Yeah.
But I was like, this. And I get to, there's also financial implications. If you win enough money, then you have to claim it. So I was like, okay. And it's supposedly secure. I'm like, I kind of get that. But just to upload like your driver's license or something like that into an AI, because also what's the AI going to do with it?
Yeah, that's my question. Like, I feel like if that's a thing, and like I have, to be fair, I haven't tried to get the educator account. I've just been listening to stories from people who have. even if it's a secure separate link, I don't feel like I would trust the parent company. Like, you're an AI company. I don't know that I would believe you.
Right. And I think I'm also to the point, too, where we live in Louisiana. In the last couple years, our DMV had a breach. We both used Chase. Chase had a breach, I believe. Like, I don't know. There's 5 or 6 things probably that in the last 5 years that I use where I've gotten the, like, monitor this. We've had a breach. You need to monitor all of that. But it's all things that I have to use.
Yeah.
And to some degree, like after the 3rd one, I was like, well, my stuff's already all over the dark web anyways. Like, what's another? Yeah. But I also, well, that's slightly laissez-faire. I also don't want to give it to something else that I sure as heck don't trust.
Yeah. Well, and like what I start thinking about is like, I want to say it was like in Chicago, the police had given out like the doorbell cameras.
Oh, yeah.
For free to residents, but didn't tell them that they were taking faces for facial recognition.
Right.
So I'm like, that gets me super leery when I start putting things into AI, because I'm like, granted, while my kid's probably on the FBI watch list, which means my face is probably already out there because of her, but still, and like, I don't want to give you like my face and my likeness, because I get worried about the fact that like my Apple phone unlocks to my face. Like, it's not hard for an AI to render a 3D image of you and to unlock the phone.
Fun fact, with Apple, it's not the camera unlocking it, it's a sensor. We found this out when B's front-facing camera broke on his phone. We had AppleCare. We took it, and then his Face ID wouldn't work. And we thought it was because the camera had changed, and like maybe when they had... Because, AppleCare, they used to just, like, give you a new phone. This, we had to drop it off. They had to keep it for a day. And I just figured something, when they put the new camera in, it didn't go like that. And they were like, no, it's actually not the camera. There's a sensor there that does it, not the camera. And I was like, felt like I'd been lied to because I fully thought it was the camera.
Yeah.
And then, oddly enough, it turned out that somehow when they did it, we have parental settings on it. It was a parental setting that he couldn't use Face ID, and they're like, well, you never enabled this. And I was like, no, he used it before. I've never taken it off, because actually, in case he changes his password, I have it to where my face opens his phone as well.
Gotcha.
Which we also look a lot alike. And so I had told him that it was because we looked so much alike that's why my face.
No, that it's because you put your face in?
No, he found out like 6 weeks ago.
Oh, that's hilarious. So Sarah Rochelle's will open to my face.
Yeah.
Because we look so much alike.
Yeah.
But I've never put mine on hers, but like legitimately.
Well, because she's going to tell you her password. She's not going to hide anything. And again, my child is very naive, obviously.
Yeah, but like kids don't need to know what they don't need to know.
Right. Well, and he got a phone when he was really young. Younger than I'd really wanted to. And so when I did it in case he forgot his password, which it's a number important to him, so he shouldn't. We did let him set that up. But I set it up. And so literally for like 2 to 3 years, he thought it was because we looked so much alike. And I told him like in the last 6 months or 6 weeks it came out, and he was like so annoyed at me. And he was like, I believed you. And he was like, what else have you lied to me about? And I was like, probably a lot of stuff. Like,
oh, it's so much. Yeah. Yeah, that's my kid's latest kick, is like, what are all the things that mom has lied about? Like chlorine fixes your cold. Because I work. Oh yeah, that's one. Because they would never want to go to swim practice, and like they were such a handful as young kids because they had so much energy.
Because they're all ADD.
Like, if they were just snuffy, I would be like, oh, like when you flip turn, that chlorine's gonna flush your sinus cavity out, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Nice.
Or like for Brianna, because she's got that Band-Aid fixation when she was little. I'd be like, oh, chlorine helps clean out your wounds. That's why it stings a little bit. So there's like all kinds of stuff like that I've told my kids that they're just now figuring out. Like literally Sarah Rochelle told one of her friends to go swim in a pool like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, that was a lie, right? And she's like, what? My 21-year-old pre-med student didn't know that was a lie.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was like, I really should have held out. And like, I really should have like hoped this came up in conversation in med school for you to be like, my mom said that like.
That's funny.
Chlorine cleans out your sinus cavity.
Yeah. But going back, so with Apple, it's a sensor, but I was like, how does the sensor work? And the guy was like, I don't really know, but it's not the camera. It's the sensor. And he's like, and you turned it off in parental settings. And I was like, no, it literally worked. Even when the camera was broken, it still worked, which made sense because it wasn't the camera. And that's when the front-facing camera failed. We kept being like, well, Face ID works. Like, how is this broken?
Yeah. But like, it's just where I get so leery with giving people my likeness. Like, I really don't even like the airport.
Or even like
where they like do the facial picture at the airport. I hate that.
Yeah. Or at Universal, they took it. And somehow Universal said, so we had the Express Pass when we went this last Christmas. And they have a picture of you. Well, somehow I opted out. I never opted out. I never opted in either. But like, James and B, theirs worked fine. But mine, for whatever reason, maybe their system just knows that I don't like that kind of stuff. Because I even we were there for 4 or 5 days. I even went to like guest services or whatever. And I was like, this doesn't work. I've never opted it out. And we had to get my card. Like, we had to do something separate for me every single time. And it got really annoying. And so they'd be like, okay, it's enabled now. And then I'd go ride. No,
it's not.
There's like one, when we rode Hulk, there's like 3 areas where they check it in Hulk. And somehow I always made it through the second time. Like 2, stop 1, didn't work. Stop 2, it worked. Stop 3, nope. And so it kept giving me that false hope. But even then I was like, I don't love that it's using my face, my husband's face, my child's face for an express pass, which I get why, because that way I don't get off, use it, get out, turn it over to you.
Exactly.
But it's also like your room key. So like, why would I be sharing a room key with somebody else?
I don't know. And I think both of us are very intentional about like, what's the return if we have to surrender that data? Because like for me, a free educator account is not enough for me to upload anything into it. Like I will go pay the $25 a month for a paid account. Like as a teacher, there are so many things we spend our money on. Like I'm just not going to put my information into that to get like, it's not worth it to me.
No, because it's the why. Like, why do you need that level of information and what are you going to do with it?
Well, and like, so in higher ed, one of the things that we do is we get stuff all the time. Like I get virtual access to my textbooks for free, but they just do an email verification and it has to be like a school email. So I'm like, if the purpose is to confirm that I am a teacher, why can't you use email verification?
Right.
Or when Teeks had their shoes out and they were discounted for teachers, for Teaching for Teaching Week, do you remember that?
Yeah.
There's that third-party company that verifies that information. I did do them because they sent me a secure link. And I was like, okay, I feel comfortable like updating
I've done that with
stuff.
I think J. Crew does a teacher discount. I think I did it with them one time. I've done it with a couple, but it's usually larger retailers that I trust. And they do send you a secure link. And then there's an email verification. And I also think that's why now Apple is using Unidays. And I now get emails from them. And they have a lot of retailers. So I think they're becoming like a trusted one.
Yeah, because it makes sense. Like if it's your data, it should be centralized somewhere to be trusted.
Right.
And I feel like, I feel like people are super aware of their data. And then I actually talk to people that aren't like in my tight circle. And I'm like, what on earth?
Right.
Like, what? Like you just upload? Like I would think all teachers would know better than to upload their student stuff into an ungated system.
Right.
And yet, like I do a training and they're all like, yeah, I do that. And I'm like, what?
Right.
I'm like, did your organization approve it? And sometimes it's a different AI provider than their organization has approved, which is like a double no.
Right.
Because your CIO, your chief intelligence officer has to that AI company that like, because there's different risks with different companies.
Right.
So like, that's a layer that I expect not everybody to quite grasp, but like I was scrolling through something the other day and somebody talked about how they were putting their medical records into chat. And I was like, but like, what?
I figured like that's what you Google. You Google your symptoms, you Google your test results, and then WebMD tells you you're dying.
Yeah,
Like,
no, like
that's
this
what you
person
do with
was like,
that.
I uploaded all my medical tests, and I'm like, what else was in your damn chart?
Right.
Like, who knows what it was in there that they can now use? Like, your address is in there, like, potentially your patient, your number, like, and like, it's not hard to hack some of these companies. And I think people feel like no one's gonna come for my data because no one cares. And I'm like, it's actually kind of the opposite. Like, you are the prime target if you're not being careful with your data.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, this whole thing with Claude, I was just like, man, well, then it got even wilder. So, I teach my night classes in the summer. I don't do research. I teach, in technology and artificial intelligence. And so I was talking about this with my students because we've been talking about like privacy and what you can and can't upload and what is gated system versus ungated system. And we've also just been talking about like the lack of training that teachers get on this type of stuff because again, like we're just handed a tool and they're like, here's how you use the tool, but there's no like, oh, you can upload the IEP into Magic School because it's gated, it's protected, there's a firewall, like all that's not explained. So one of my students like raises her hand and I'm like, yeah, I call on her and she's like, well, I got a call from my kid because they use ChatGPT on their phone and it came up to integrate it in their bank.
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Like in TurboTax. And I was like, what? They were like, yeah, it's like, ChatGPT has all these new like apps you can integrate with. And I'm like, Canva. Yeah, let's integrate with Canva. Make me some pretty pictures. Not my tax provider. Not my bank.
No. No.
And I'm just like, also, shame on you, bank.
Right.
Like, shame on you and shame on chat. Like, both of you. Shame.
No. I don't even like... Okay, so we haven't talked about this, but we both love designer handbags. Well, I'm in this point in my life where, like, I hate clutter. So, like, I hadn't used some in, like, over a year. And I was like, okay, time to get rid of them. So I use a large consignment site. Never had any issues. Normally, I'll just buy something new. Well, this last time I was like, you know what? I want the money. Because there was something new I wanted from the Louis Vuitton boutique. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the money, recycle it, buy this. Well, I could wait like 3 weeks for a paper check. And it used to be they would send money to PayPal. And you'd have it within like 3 or 4 days. Well, now you had to like click this link your bank account.
Yeah, no. Right there.
And I was like, well, it was all secure. Like, it was also a pain in the butt trying to do. But the whole time I'm like, is this really worth the money? Like, at this point, maybe I should have just waited for the check. And part of the reason why I didn't wait for the check is we've been having issues getting our mail. Like, it'll show up in the Inform Daily Digest. Like, you're expecting these pieces of mail. And somehow it keeps happening with my power and then my gas bill. They show up that I'm getting them, and then I don't. So obviously one of my neighbors is probably getting them, and they're not giving me my bill, nor are they paying my bill. Like, if you're going to keep my bill, at least pay it.
Well, and I think, like, if you're not aware that you can do this, because I didn't know until you did this, because I always get nervous that people are going to steal my mail.
Right.
Not that anyone's really ever done that, but, like, irrational fear. And me is that, like, because we do as a business, I get checks mailed to me all the time.
Right.
That are large sums. And so I'm like, no. So you can actually get a Daily Digest where they scan your mail for the day so you know what's supposed to be in your mailbox. Right. Ergo, you know if something has gone missing.
Right. And then how our neighborhood is built, all of the mailboxes are on one side. So that way, like, the mail person can just go. So my mailbox is actually not in my yard. It's my neighbor catty corner across the street. It's our mailbox, then our next door neighbor's mailbox, and then hers, which is funny because her number's in between, but they didn't number them that way. So, like, there's times where, like, I get their mail, they get mine, and we swap them out.
But somebody just really doesn't want you to get your water or your gas bill.
Right. Nor do they want to pay it.
So you made someone mad, I feel like.
But I'm like,
they're like, she's going to get her grass cut off.
Dude, like, if you're going to keep my bill, just pay it. Or give it back to me. Because then...
I think they're keeping your bill hoping you get your gas turned off.
Maybe. Because then I get the email. Finally, it's happened enough to where, like, Oh, and then all the utilities are in my husband's name. So then I had to use his email to get an account. And then, and fun fact, he can't remember his email password half the time. So anyways, I got it set up to where it'll send me a text message if it doesn't get the payment by a certain day. And then I have to call and pay by phone. So it's become this whole big thing. And I know you can set up auto pay, but I hate it. Because again, it gives somebody access to my information that I don't want.
Yeah, I don't use auto pay. I use Chase's expedited bill pay because like they already have all my money data anyway. So like, what's it matter? But I refuse to do auto pay for that exact reason.
No, we have one of our bills is on auto pay and it's billed to a credit card. Yeah. So that way.
Yeah, like when I have to do that, that's how I do mine is I bill to a credit card. So there's no like direct connection with my bank account.
Yeah. The only thing that we have technically on auto pay is like our life insurance because they won't set it up any other way.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But I hate auto pay. I hate all of that. And I'm just realizing how much I actually hate all this as we're talking about it. And how I also come from a long line of conspiracy theorists. So I think
that's on my side of the family too. Like we have a lot of like upper level military, intelligence.
Oh yeah. No, mine just none of that.
My grandfather grew up in a whole secret city, like building the atomic bomb. So like,
yeah. We don't have anything that fun.
Like hyper crazy about like your privacy because like Grandpa was a little crazy. He'd be like, "Don't watch the TV because they can see you after 5 minutes," and I'm like, "Who can see me?"
Right, that would be
and
crazy.
He's like, it's like the government. But like to be fair, the FBI followed them every time they left the city, and they would ask like kids to try and get them to say it. Then they had to like leave the city, like you were unemployed in the Depression and during wartime.
That's so weird.
So like I feel like that's part of why like. You know, you've got family that's that way. I've got family that's that way. So I think we're both just very naturally suspicious.
Right.
And I think like with AI coming on the scene, both of us have kind of really from the jump start been like, I'm not putting my information in there.
Mm-mm.
You know?
No, and like since our system doesn't train the model, even our personal accounts, I think our personal accounts don't. I need to double check that now that I'm thinking about it. Like when Brandon needs to do things like for school order, he logs in as me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, don't use regular ChatGPT. Use our system because then I can know that if you accidentally give it something.
Yeah.
Or did I tell you what he did recently?
No.
We got a haircut like 3 weeks ago and he's been talking about buzzing his hair forever. And he thinks that I would actually care. And I'm like, it's your hair. Like, do whatever you want. And so
it's not going to look good on me, I hate to tell you.
So funny enough, well, what he says is a buzz is not actually a buzz. Like you saw it the other day. Like that's his version of a buzz. Like it was grown out for a week or two, but he took a selfie and asked ChatGPT.
One of my students said that she did that with her kid because her kid wanted a haircut that was going to be terrible looking. And she's like, so I just did it.
Yeah. So at least like that was, and I know he did this because he uses my account. And the thread on the side had something like hair buzz cut hair. And I was like, he did not do this. No, he did. Full on did. And he even showed it. Well, so I found it that day. And then that night we took him to get his hair cut. And his barber, I guess girls are barbers. Anyways, it's a barbershop. And so he went to Miss Anna and said, this is what I want. And she's like, how'd you get it like that? And she's like, did you do that in ChatGPT? He's like, yeah, I wanted to see what it would look like. Because he's been telling her that he wants to get it buzzed. And we keep trying to say like, no. But what he wants buzzed is just like short hair where it's like this versus like a buzz like.
Gotcha. Because I'm thinking like buzz, like James.
Yeah, no, it's about as long as James, but he has more hair. But it's not as short because I thought he meant buzz like almost bald, like that short. And it was funny because Miss Anna was trying to talk him out of it. And she looked at me and she's like, you really don't care about this anymore. And I was like, I'm tired of hearing about it because he's been saying it off and on for the last year. And she goes, yeah. And it's the middle of summer. It'll grow back by school if he hates it. And I'm like, exactly.
Yeah. Just let him find out.
Yeah. And I'm also not super attached to my hair. Like when we started the podcast, my hair was down to the middle of my back. It's obviously not now. And I'm seeing it started going to a newer hairdresser, like finding somebody who specializes in curly hair, and she was like, "You want to chop all of it off?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, we can do like in sections that way." And I was like, "No, just do it." And she's like, "You're not attached to your hair at all." And I was like, "Nope." I was like, "If you could give me the scissors at this point, I would just do it because, or
Yeah.
tell you."
I think what we both, so I think when we decide something, like it's all in and it's over. Like by the time we've made the decision, like the time it's over.
Yeah. But when I realized my child had put a selfie of himself into OpenAI, I was like, well, at least it was in our system rather than
Right. Yeah. No, and that's I have a different thing that I have to worry about that with our model being gated and not seeing the larger model, Sarah Rochelle has been doing her forensics stuff in there.
You're so on a list.
Oh, I'm so on the list.
Between May and her counting down until the JFK files were declassified.
And reading them.
Yeah.
And reading them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she, yeah, no. So yeah, she has her own account in our system. And but she had somehow gotten into my account. So there are all these threads on like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Go big or go home.
And like, I mean, I'm reading, I have to read the thread because I have to know, like, what is she doing? And like, so in her forensics course, they had given her like, basically like the capstone was they had to like create a murder, solve a murder. But like one of the other projects, I think the first week she was there was like, they had to actually take a real serial killer case and they were given like the evidence that was presented like in court that's open. And they had to try and solve it. And like, they had to be able to prove it with the evidence. So like you can find the outcome for those serial killers, but like you had to prove it with the evidence itself and like chaining it all together. And so like she had been going like deep into like the evidence and this and like all kinds of stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, thank God we don't train the model. And thank God she did not Google this because the last thing I need is the FBI knocking on my door because I've got one kid who's into conspiracy theories on smallpox and vaccinations and assassinations of presidents. And then I've got another one who's looking up serial killers, questions on what, because like she was asking about weapons and stuff. And I'm like, ChatGPT, you won't let me make an image of somebody with like scraped knees because that violates your rules. But like, oh, we can ask about weapons.
And serial killers.
Totally fine. Totally fine. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know.
And then let's add in your driver's license.
Yeah, let's give me your driver's license and get your educator account. So like now we can like dox you at your workplace whenever you violate the policy.
Right. Like I'm just stuck on people actually uploading.
I'm more stuck on the finance side of things. I'm like, who is connecting their bank to this? Because like, I don't even connect my bank like when I file my taxes. Like, you know how, like, I think it was, like, last year, it was like, oh, as a business, you can connect your bank account so we can automatically, like, do your deductions. And I was like, that means you're searching through my account. No, thank you.
No. I let it.
Like, that's a no for me.
I do let that auto pay. Like, when it's, like, you know, you can send your money because we always end up owing.
Yeah, and I feel like that's coming from like the government for the most part. And there's a PIN number, and there's like I do the direct deposit. I don't do the third party instant money people because I don't trust that.
No, I don't trust that either.
But like I do that, but I'm just like, what do you mean you're gonna like auto like? This is the train of thought that comes to me. You're gonna auto classify my deductions, which means you're looking through all of my statements and all of my transactions,
right? Which they're probably doing anyways, but I don't want to actually think about you doing all of that.
Well, yeah. And I'm like, you know, when I call my bank and like, my dad just had his truck stolen. So like they're calling the bank, they're trying to get everything changed over. Well, they're like, what's your last 10 transactions? Like that. I used to be a bank teller. That was like our go-to security thing was like asking your last 10 transactions. Well, if you hooked up to my bank account, you now know my last 10 transactions and you can now actually make changes if you have enough other information. No, thank you.
No. And even like when I was talking about the consignment store, I got what I needed to get. Like I waited till I got my money and then I disabled their access to the bank. Which I was like, oh, at least I know it was turned on and then it was turned off. And it was, but still it creeped me out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's something that And I feel like we kind of, and this is what I kind of told my students. I was like, I feel like we went through this thing with the internet. And it was like, okay, Wikipedia is not something that you use information from. You go to .gov. I think there has to be like a data privacy conversation where we're like, okay, you can share this information with the government, but like you don't share this information with artificial intelligence, or because like my big thing is always like, where is the data stored? Like that's my big question, having built all these cyber programs. That's why I'm like, I want a secure link. I want it encrypted. I want it secure. I want to know it's not just hanging out in your data center waiting for someone to hack. Like that's what I want to know. And so I feel like there's this education that's going to have to happen because people are growing up in a world where information is so available. And yes, it would be really convenient to hook AI into my bank account to have it budget for me and like know my history and tell me the areas that I could get. Yes, that is super helpful. But I would want the AI that Chase vets and that Chase uses and that's in their internal system over an external connection. Like I will wait for that to happen, and that's when I might use it. But like, no, I'm not gonna like create a highway where there wasn't one before, where it's sharing information back and forth. Because like in cybersecurity, what they tell you is the minute you start that back and forth, that's where
going back.
Right. That's where people are going to take the information. It's the man in the middle. Like they're going to get in the middle of it, intercept your information. You're never going to know that they intercepted it, and especially like you brought up the Canvas breach. We're still suffering from the Canvas breach. Like Canvas had a third party investigating everything. And the data from the third party got hacked on what the hackers took originally.
Took me a minute to process, but like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So the hackers got hacked.
Well, no, the third-party company that was like, so the third-party company was contacting all the schools and like, okay, what student data did you store on your servers? So they had a catalog of all the information that all these schools had on their servers. And so all of that data got stolen.
So it was the people investigating the hack that got hacked. Okay.
So like now your information is like triply out there if you're a student potentially, because that was the whole thing with the ransom and why they didn't want to pay the ransom. But if they didn't pay the ransom, they were going to release all that data to, I guess, whatever nefarious people want your data.
Well, and did you see, this is slightly off topic, but again, internet is a scary place and stranger danger. Have you been following the case here in New Orleans with the teacher and the inappropriate child images?
No, but like,
well, so he keeps getting.
Why does it keep happening in New Orleans?
Well, I think it happens everywhere. I think it's just we're here, and
I just feel like every year it's like there's 5 people that get arrested. I'm just like, can we not? Can we?
Well, yeah. Well, so this one is really bad, and I've said it from the beginning because he was arrested the first time in like January or February. And it was like 30-something counts. And then he never got out on bond. So he's been arrested this whole time. And then he got rearrested where they added like another 30 or 40 charges. He has over 100 charges of inappropriate child pictures, all these kinds of things. And I kept being like, how did they not catch this at first? Like,
yeah,
because they'd been investigating him for a while and like more and more has come out. Well, it came out this past week that he was friending students on Facebook or following them on Instagram, taking their photos and using AI. It did not specify what AI. So, and making.
Yeah. So like same things that's happening with celebrities right now.
Right. But like this was his students.
Yeah. That's.
Which is just like, it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. That's why I don't even use my actual name on my social media so that my students can't find me. Like that's my entire goal, is just like no one can find me. So like even starting this podcast for me was like a big privacy breach because I don't like having my stuff out there on the internet. But I had just gotten to the point where I was like, I feel like people aren't talking about the stuff that I care about. And so I feel like someone has to shout into the void. So it's going to be me.
Right.
But like, yeah, I don't friend students on things. Like,
no, I don't friend. And the students that I taught in Phoenix, now they're all, I taught them in like 04 to 07. So now they're all grown ups. So they were fourth graders then. They're all grown ups having their own kids. And like they started friend requesting me when they got accounts when they were in high school and things. But my line, one, I was friends with most of their parents. If they were requesting me, 9 times out of 10, I was already friends with the parent. Because again, I don't want to be accused of anything.
Yeah.
And then I always made sure that they requested me, not me requesting them.
Yeah.
As a safety guard against myself, because I'm like, there's all these like now 17-year-olds who have like found Facebook and like, oh, I found my old 4th grade teacher because I also moved. And it's been fun watching them raise their kids and things like that. And, you know, I've been able to have some really hard conversations with some of them. Like one of them came out and I, to be honest, wasn't fully surprised. But I was able to support her and send her a message and just be like, hey, if you need anything, I'm here. Like I'm 1,500 miles away.
Yeah.
But I'm here.
Yeah.
And some of them have had, you know, bad times, and I've been able to send messages and keep in touch for like the good parts.
Yeah.
But I'm always also worried about what about the bad parts.
Yeah.
And then I'm also in a really awkward situation with Brandon because now golf is different. Like if you want to get a college golf scholarship, high school golf means nothing. So he's on his high school team, but it's like fun and it's practice tournaments, and because the more competitive rounds, the more used to you get used to competition and doing all of that. Well, a big recruiting thing now is the coaches will follow you on Instagram because even before, like, what is it? This June 15th after your sophomore year is when coaches can start. They can follow you before because that's not really, well, it's creating a place to contact. They're not actually contacting.
Yeah.
So but if you have a private, how are the coaches necessarily going to find you?
Yeah.
So it's,
but it's
there, and
you've calculated the risk and the payoff with it.
Right. Well, he didn't get access to the account. And I originally started it. You can go back on his account if anyone can find it. You go back and it starts when he's like 13, 14 months. And I created it more as a memory book because I was terrible at actually creating his baby book. Like, I don't think I've ever entered anything in his baby book.
I have 3 children. I have bought 3 baby books. I have actually done 0 of 3.
Right. I think there's like stuff shoved in his. That's if it even survived Hurricane Ida. I'm not 100% sure it survived Hurricane Ida.
Yeah, Sarah, Rochelle, and Brianna have like memory boxes my mother-in-law put together for them because I don't do baby books. And like that, we lost that in Ida. So like for me, it's very important to me to have everything digital. I think having been through that, and I get a little crazy like a dance sometimes because they want to do like a hard DVD. And I'm like, no, I want the digital file. Like I want the digital file.
And I think that's both important to us having gone through what we've gone through. And like Brandon was 2.5 months when we flooded with Hurricane Isaac and lost a bunch of stuff. So, you know, I started it just because I had a child who tried to drop out of pre-K4 to go become a PGA Tour player. Yeah. You know, and it was stuff before that even. Like, for a while, his favorite golfer was Bubba Watson, and he didn't talk to me or James for like 2 days because why didn't we name him Bubba Watson? And I was like, I'm sorry, we didn't. And I'm like,
and that was gonna be a thing.
And Bubba is technically not even his real name, but okay. He was like 2 or 3. So I started it probably when he was like 14 months, 15 months.
Yeah.
And it was private and it was a memory book. And at one point I made it public. But again, for a long time, we didn't use his real name. Like it was just B. And even now, I finally gave him access in the last year because he wants an Instagram account. And, you know, he turned 13. Mm-hmm. He can finally, even though I know people lie about their kids' ages and get their kids' Instagram early. He was finally of the age that it was acceptable to them and to me. But I haven't sat down and created an account. And I was like, well, why don't you just take over this? Yeah. Because you're going to need to be like, they're not going to want to talk to me when they start recruiting. They're going to want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And you need to start being able to do this and learning what it is. But I'm still logged in.
Yeah.
So I'm logged into his account and my account, which is really funny because James will send us reels. And so I get like 2 notifications. But it's also interesting because, you know, we were at the junior AM recently, and there was a mental coach and swing coach. He's kind of a combination of both. He talked to Brandon and seemed really interested, and then he followed Brandon and then sent him a message. And so I was able to see that. Yeah. And I think sometimes B forgets that I'm logged into his account. And he was like, yeah, so-and-so messaged me. And I was like, yeah, did you respond? And he was like, no. He's like, I don't know if I really want to work with him. And I just didn't feel like responding. And I'm like, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And James had also told him not to respond because he has a swing coach that we love. So, like, we're not looking for anybody at the current moment.
Yeah, but I think you've done a good job of like looking at the risk payoff, keeping things private. And I think that not everyone is that aware.
Right.
And then you're adding in this whole new layer of like AI. And like, you know, kind of like you said a few episodes ago, like even putting IEP information into an AI that's okayed by the district.
That still weirds me out.
You can still be weirded out. And, you know, I've kind of been sitting with it and it's like, you know, I don't know where I land at with it. And I think like my system, I know the ins and outs of it. And so that needs to be more comfortable.
Right.
But like, I don't even keep electronic copies of my own kids' diagnosis. They're all redacted on my computer. Like the actual originals are in an encrypted space that's cloud-based. So like Sarah Rochelle laughs because she tells everybody like she's got 96 pages of redacted documents that proves that she can be weird if she wants to be weird. Like that's her perspective of it. But like when I do jury duty, so in the state of Louisiana, if you get called into jury duty, but you are the primary caretaker for someone with a disability, you are exempt from jury duty. And so I've spent a lot of times over the years where the judge is immediately like, that's fine, but send me her diagnosis papers. And I'm like, no.
I'll send you a note from the doctor.
I'm like, you don't get diagnosis papers. And they literally one time, like, very much were cornering me. I think Sarah Shaw was like 8 years old. And
I remember this.
I'm like, I have an 8-year-old homeschooled kid on the spectrum. There is no one else to take her. I cannot do this. And so I literally went in, like, and this is before you could, like, redact en masse and, like, use paint to, like, redact all 96 pages. And then I printed them and mailed them to them. And I was like, this is what you can have. And like, there wasn't a whole lot showing on the page because I was being a little spiteful.
Right.
At that point, I was like, because I felt like they didn't believe me. And so it very much, and I was like, you know, I can give you her Medicaid card. I can do like other things that will show without having to give you like that type of sensitive information. Like that's not your business.
And I feel like to some degree,
especially for diagnosis papers, like that's very different than like, I need a note from your doctor.
Right. I feel like a note from her doctor would suffice.
Yeah, no, they wanted her actual diagnosis.
Yeah, I remember that because you were fighting with them over it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like we're both really aware, but I think there just needs to be so much more awareness because the more I talk to people, like my student's like, thankfully my kid didn't do it. She's like, my kid knows better. She's like, and it's partly because she's been in classes with me for 2 summers now. So like we talk about data privacy and AI and we talk about like things like that. And you know, they always laugh because like Dr. Robinson has lots of opinions. And I'm like, I do. I have a lot of opinions. And one of them is that like my data is my data and I should have the right to choose who I disclose certain things to. And like there are things like, yeah, now I have to give my social security number to the insurance company. I really don't like that.
No, I still don't like it.
That's
a hill I am going to die on.
Yeah, I dislike it because it's tied to my finances. And I am like psychotic about the privacy of people's finances. And I'm just very specific about it. But I think that, you know, looking at the current adults, there's a concern, but also looking at teenagers, like teenagers have their own bank accounts. Like they might link it to like ChatGPT. And like it was her son who's in high school.
Or even like
got the notification.
Older people. Like I know an older person, a grandparent who recently fell for one of the like text messages or like you owe us $16,000. You need to pay or we're taking you to collections and all of this. And like they fell for it and luckily they wired the money, but luckily it was the end of the day and they were able to cancel it.
Yeah.
But then again, because he had processed it, like he had to go through and do all of that. But like now I'm worried hearing this. I'm like, well, what if that person starts to use AI? Like, hopefully.
Well, and one of the things we're doing in my class that might be interesting for people to know is we are making 10 like micro learning experiences as their culminating project. And like data privacy is one that's come up multiple times because, like her son was targeted. So that's, I was like, your students are going to get these messages, and like we have to teach them that it's not okay to share this type of information and why.
No, we need to bring back stranger danger.
Yeah, I definitely need to bring back stranger danger. So we are putting together some little free, we're going to release them on Fuselier so anyone can access them. But like we've all kind of said, like we've talked about like, what do you do now that you've identified this need? And I'm like, you go back to your district and you fight for training.
Well, and something else, not just data, like say you're creating a lesson, you're creating worksheets in OpenAI. There's ways that your students can find those things.
Well, and then
that brings us back to cheating.
Yeah, like even if they're not finding like your exact thing, you're training the model to give like the higher probability. Like the more people give it the right answer, the more that probability happens. So I don't even think people understand that. So it's just wild to me that people actually are connecting these things. Like we just definitely need.
If you've connected your bank account, please tell us and explain why.
Please explain.
It is wild to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so leery of all of that stuff. But I mean, obviously there's a need for it because they wouldn't be offering it if people weren't clicking it.
Yeah.
Because like it costs money for them to develop those connectors.
Yeah, that's so out the box.
So we'd love to hear from you guys. Hopefully you find this enlightening. Hopefully you're like, oh, definitely not connecting my bank account to my AI provider. And hopefully our little suspiciousness or leeriness of everything doesn't turn you off too much. But we are in general suspicious of all things and all people, while we are also, or I am, highly opinionated. So thanks for joining us today. It's been fun chatting about data and privacy. I think we're both like-minded with that. So hopefully it's educational to the public.
All right.